Oh, I was remembering when I got back from a big show a couple of years ago. Flew into Greenville late, dragged the suitcase in around midnight, dumped it out on the kitchen counter. Badge holder, lanyard, 3 pens I didn't need, a stack of business cards a half inch thick, and a scanner export sitting in my inbox with about 200 and something names on it. Suki, my Bernedoodle, comes over and sniffs the tote bag. There's something in there worth having. Well, there wasn't. All in, travel, the booth, shipping, the dinners. We were around 60 grand for 4 days. 6 months later, somebody asked me what the show produced. I didn't have a bad answer. I had no answer. Spreadsheet of names and a really good story about how great the conversations were. And I had the diagnosis wrong for years. It wasn't the show. It wasn't the crowd. The right people were absolutely in that building. I could name 6 of them off that list today. I just never sold anybody anything. Not once. Not at any point in the whole $60,000 exercise. That's today. I'm Dan Griffith, and this is Seriously Don't Do That. Week 8, closing out the month we've spent on outreach. I want to be clear who I'm talking to because it's August. Most of you have already committed your fall event money. Registration's paid, flights are booked. Some of you sent a booth deposit in May, and you're not going to get it back. So this is not a should you go episode. That decision's made. This is about the part you haven't paid for yet. And I mean this, is the part that determines whether any of the rest of it works. Here's the mistake, and it's probably not the one you're expecting. The problem is not who's at the conference. I need to say that clearly because that's where most advice goes, and it's a dead end. People come home from a bad show and decide they picked the wrong event. Wrong crowd, too junior. So next year, they pick a different show. Spend the same money, get the identical result. The room is almost always fine. 12,000 people in your category in one building for 3 days? Your buyers are in there. The problem is that a conference is a selling sequence, and the sales inside it happen in different places at different times. Most companies attempt exactly one of them, usually the hardest one, and usually in the worst possible space. Here's the sequence. First, there's the sale you make internally, weeks out. That's where everyone agrees what they're responsible for producing. Then there's the meeting you sell before the show, so you land with a calendar instead of hope. Then there's the sale you make on site, which is not your product. It's the next conversation. That's the only thing anyone can realistically close standing in a hallway. And then there's the product sale, which belongs in that next conversation and nowhere earlier. That's the order. What actually happens? Get the front of it, show up cold, and attempt the last sale on the floor to a stranger in 8 minutes while they're holding a cup of coffee and watching the clock for their next session. That's the hardest sale in your business, attempted in the worst environment you will ever attempt it in. And when it doesn't work, the conclusion? Bad show. So you've paid for the flights, paid for the registration, maybe paid for carpet, because they charge you for carpet, which in and of itself is its own crime. And the plan for the actual conversation is, we'll figure it out on the floor. Seriously, don't do that. Quick numbers here because they line up almost too neatly. Freeman's 2025 Trust Report, 95% of attendees trust a brand more after a meeting in person. Nothing else you run does that. Not a sequence, not a webinar, not the best content piece you'll write all year. That's the ceiling. Now the floor. Hockey Stack's 2025 mid-market analysis, cited through BX Executive Events in this past April, puts in-person conversion from trade show contacts around 1% when there's no structured motion before or after. And the number that explains it, Sales Hive, December 2025, roughly 18% of what an event produces ever gets a serious follow-up. So, the most trusted channel available to you converts at 1%. And 4/5 of what it produces is never touched, right? 30 seconds here from Greater Gain Group, and then we'll be right back in the episode. Ask 2 people on your team to say the exact sentence they use to close the next meeting at a conference. Say it out loud. Does it have a date in it? If it doesn't, your events are producing contacts. Contacts don't show up in a forecast. That's the U in Greater Gain Group's BUILT method. Unified outreach. One outreach engine that reaches the whole buying committee. Built so that your team runs it without you. Greater Gain Group. Now back to the episode. It's not a channel problem. A channel producing 95% trust is not the problem. That's a nothing was ever sold problem. Here's a composite blended from about a dozen of these. And by the way, we hear many more every year. An insurtech company, claims automation into P&C carriers and MGAs. 75,000 all in on a category show, 2 people, 3 days. What came home? 240 scans, 11 conversations anybody could describe from memory, and 1 follow-up that went out 9 days later addressed it to "Hi there." The email isn't the failure. Fix the email and you fix nothing. Here's the break. When that follow-up went out, there was nothing to reference. No use case anybody had captured, no agreed next step, no date. So the message had to open by reintroducing the company to people they'd already met, which is worse than cold because you spent the handshake and got nothing for it. They never sold the next conversation on site, so the follow-up had no ground to stand on. And they never sold a meeting before the show either. 0 on the calendar when they landed, which means 3 days ran on foot traffic. And the rep didn't fail. He got let go, but he didn't fail. There was no sequence for him to execute. You can't run a motion that nobody designed. So let's build it. And you can start this week for a show in October. Weeks out, write the plan, not a deck. It answers which accounts you're going after in that room, what a good conversation looks like, which committee seats you're targeting, and what each person going is responsible for producing. That last one matters more than it sounds. Most event staffing is, we'll all be around, which means nobody owns anything, so nobody closes anything. And a warning on targeting, because this is where people over-rotate. Targeting is the easy part, and everybody obsesses over it because it feels like planning without requiring you to sell anything. Spend 3 weeks on a beautiful account list and never send a message. You've done nothing. The list is the setup. The sale is the point. Then sell the meeting before you go. Highest return activity of the whole event, and almost nobody runs it. You're not selling your product here. You're selling 20 minutes at a specific time to somebody already going to be in that building. That's an easy sale. The easiest one you'll make all quarter. They're already traveling, already blocking 3 days, already expecting to meet vendors. You're not asking them to change anything. 2 channels, LinkedIn, same role-specific outreach we built last week, except now you've got the best reason to reach out that exists in outbound. We're going to be in the same city. That gets replies from people who've ignored you for 6 months. And the conference app, which is the most underused asset in B2B events. Every major show has one. Most attendees are on it. Scheduling is built in. And standard in practice for sales is somebody downloads it into Uber on the way to the convention from the airport. It opens weeks early. Be in it the day it opens. Quick word here, because a lot of event advice assumes you're an exhibitor, and plenty of you aren't. Every part of this works also from an attendee badge. The pre-event outreach works. The app works, arguably better because you're not tethered to 12 feet of carpet for 3 days. Hallway conversation works. The calendar ask works. The follow-up works. What a booth buys you is inbound traffic. People who walk up because they saw your logo or something that interested them. That's real. If you've already paid for it, use it. But it is the most expensive line in the budget and the only one that isn't required. So if you're early stage or capital constrained, or you're testing whether a show deserves a bigger commitment next year, 3 badges in a plan beats a 10 by 20 with no plan. I've watched it happen repeatedly, and it isn't close, fraction of the cost. The booth is optional. The sequence isn't. Now, the part that changes everything, and it happens in those 8 minutes. 2 jobs on site. Discovery on the use case, then set the meeting right there while you're standing with them. Discovery first, and I mean actual discovery, not a pitch with question marks in it. 2 or 3 questions about what they're trying to fix, their volume, their workflow, where it breaks today, what it's costing them. You're hunting for a specific use case, not category interest. We're looking at claims automation is not a use case. We're adjudicating about 9% of claims by hand, and it's eating 2 full-time people. That's a use case. That's the thing you can build a meeting around. Then set the meeting. On the spot, phone out, calendar open, standing right there. And the ask is built from what they just told you. Not, let's stay in touch. Not, I'll send you a link. It's, based on that 9% you mentioned, I'd love to get 30 minutes with you the week after this and walk through exactly how we can handle that. Does Thursday the 14th work for you? Get the date in their calendar in front of you, because the link you send Thursday competes with 400 emails and a Monday leadership meeting. An invite accepted in the hallway already exists, and they're standing there with 90 seconds of nothing to do and their calendar on their phone. This is the single easiest moment you will ever have to book that meeting, and most teams walk right past it and scan a badge instead. A scan is not close. It's a receipt for a conversation nobody committed to. Hold that thought. Greater Gain Group is going to borrow 60 seconds here. If you're heading into fall conference season, you've already written the check. Registration, flights, maybe even a booth deposit back in May or June. That money's gone. But the only question left is what happens when somebody walks up and describes exactly the problem you solve. Healthcare tech founder told us his best conversation all year happened on a Tuesday afternoon. He handed her a card, said he'd said something, flew home feeling good. 9 days later, nothing. That's not a bad show. That's a missing system. We build revenue systems using our BUILT method. Hire clarity, unified outreach, install the engine, leverage AI, transfer. And the letter that describes your fall is you, unified outreach. One outreach engine that reaches your entire buying committee, not just the friendly person at the booth. Because that person can't approve anything alone and never could. Conferences, LinkedIn, email, same targets, same follow-up, one engine your team runs without you. Start where we start, with who actually buys. GreaterGainGroup.com. Now, to the episode. Now, some of them will say no. Good. Because that's what that no is worth. If somebody just spent 8 engaged minutes telling you about a problem and still won't give you 30 more, they're almost certainly not your buyer. Wrong seat, no budget, no window, or they were just being polite. And you found that out on Tuesday in a hallway for free, instead of in November after 6 follow-ups and a forecast slide with their name on it. So the ask isn't just a close, it's the qualifier. The people who said yes are telling you something real, and so are the people who don't. Both answers are worth having, and you only get either one if you ask. Last question before they walk away. Who else would need to be on that call? People answer it happily. They'll name 3 seats in 8 seconds. And in regulated markets, those are real buyers with real veto power. Compliance is a distinct buyer. Legal is a distinct buyer. Finance is a distinct buyer, and each one is afraid of something completely different. Sequence it right, though. You don't cold open compliance in a hallway. They don't write checks. They stop things. You sell your champion the meeting, and you sell them on bringing compliance to it. Then sell the product in the follow-up. Now you finally get to go sell what you actually sell. And look how different this conversation is. They've met you, they named their problem in their own words, they agreed to a date, and they told you who else is coming. That's a qualified sales conversation. That's what the money was supposed to buy, and this is the first moment it exists. One mechanic matters most, the window. Follow up inside 24 to 48 hours. Sales Hive's data puts about a 60% conversion advantage there, and that advantage doesn't decay gently. It's not partially there on day 6. It's gone. You get back Thursday, you're wiped, inbox 400 deep, and you tell yourself you'll clean up the notes Monday. Monday is day 5. Seriously, don't do that. Block that time on somebody's calendar before the trip. 2 hours, Thursday afternoon protected. It's the cheapest thing on this entire list, and it's more than the carpet. We've even used something that we call the wheels down rule, because many times you're traveling to get to an event. All the meetings and follow-up should be done before the wheels are down in your home airport. Think about it. Might be a fun thing to put in place with your team. After this, we want you to run a structured 2 to 3 week multi-channel sequence. Same architecture as any other account. One difference, these people shook your hand and agreed to a next step. Write to them like it. And do the accounting nobody wants to do. Total spend divided by sales qualified conversations created. That's your number, held to the same standard as every other channel. The next year's decision gets made on math instead of on the fact that you went this year. Fair counterpoint before I go. Some shows are genuinely awareness plays. Fine. Say that out loud now before you fly so nobody spends December trying to reverse engineer pipeline out of a decision that was never about pipeline. Assignment this week takes an hour and it costs nothing on top of what you've already spent. Next event on your calendar, 4 questions. Number 1, is there a written plan? And does everyone know what they're responsible for producing? Number 2, how many meetings are booked right now? And who's selling the meetings between today and the show? 3, what's the exact sentence your people say to close the next conversation? Say it out loud, and does it have a date in it? And 4, whose calendar has the follow-up block on it before the trip? Most teams find a partial answer to one of them. That's the gap, and you found it while there's still time to close it. You don't need me for any of that. Next week, we start the last month, and it's the one leadership actually feels. All these conversations become a forecast somebody has to defend in a board meeting. So next week, seriously, don't trust a forecast built on activity. Let's keep the conversation going. I'm Dan Griffith. We'll see you next week.